want to welcome you to San Diego. For those of you who are for the first time, great. Welcome here. I hope you come here more often. And for those who have been here many times, welcome back. This is a new space. I think it's one of the first times that you may have seen the space. Hopefully it'll work out well. It still might be a little bit of debugging. So if there's any feedback, please make sure to tell. But the other thing I wanted to tell you is I'm really excited that Barna and all of you have come together for this, and Barna has been leading this putting together this digital program, and this is super exciting to see this finally come to fruition. Thank you for Barna for doing this, and thank you everyone for coming to this, and hopefully this will be the beginning of something that will be a long-lasting tradition going into the future. So again, thank you so much, and that's it. I wish you a wonderful rest of your time here. All right.
Yes, it's time. Okay, so we are very happy to have Anupam talking about the brains of Explain.
Yeah. I have no idea. Maybe what part of the debugging, but mostly what do I do?
That's looks good, but
So it's fine here. Here we can't see the whole screen. Is it on the? Oh, there's a laptop there. Okay.
Okay, but I don't know how to. Somebody should.
I don't know either.
There may be a Zoom setting that suppresses the participants completely.
Yes.
Yeah, for now at least, until we fix it for the next couple of talks.
I see it on my own screen very well. So
Yes.
So it's just this one.
Intermediate on top.
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know.
You click on the top left.
Which one? Here?
No, like the other. Yeah.
Okay, something happened.
Yeah, and
Basically,
yeah. So
Can you
someone
screen?
need to.
Okay.
Maybe you can slide all the way. Get somewhere here.
Where is the mouse?
I saw it here.
Oh, that's hard. Okay. Then I'm looking at this.
Okay. I don't know.
And view options on the top, you probably need to.
Ah. This mouse is so unstable. Like,
Maybe I can try.
can you try? Like, and let me.
Oh, it's connected to the back.
But can you switch the share?
Okay. So now I need to, you said view option somewhere, right?
Anupam, can you stop sharing and then share again?
I could do
And
that.
it does something. Okay, view options.
Because I'm the next speaker.
Side by side move or hide video panel? Okay, can you share again? Yeah, okay.
Ah.
Should I minimize this? So is it fine?
If you could minimize that, that would be awesome, but don't break it.
Yeah, I think here.
So close.
Yeah.
So close. Yes. Awesome. Okay, so I'll get started here, everybody. And welcome. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm going to be talking about the price of explainability of clustering. And this is joint work with Svensson, Madhusudhan Pittu, and Rachel Yuan. Yeah, the slides are due to Ula, so if you like the slides, you should concentrate. And if something's unclear, please do ask. I want this to be as understandable, explainable as possible. It's very, it is very good. Okay, so two things. You guys know what K median is? Bunch of points, endpoints, distance metric. You want to choose K centers to minimize the sum of distances of a point to its closest center. If you close the center to X, and K means is where you're taking the distance from. And I'll be talking mostly about geometric metric spaces, but yeah, this is defined. Okay. And so the approximation algorithm for these problems, very well understood, still not very well understood. Both these statements are true. Lots of fascinating open questions, but I'm not going to be talking about. The important thing is that these are approximable to within constants. This is what we care for. What I'm going to be talking about is explainable clustering, and it's particularly apt that I'm giving the talk here because the notion, at least this particular notion of explainability, came out of work at UCSD. So what's explainable clustering? The whole idea is, by the way, I'm going through the motivation fairly fast. I want to show you some of the techniques, but motivation is kind of important in this case because it's a new problem. So sometimes optimal clusterings can be hard to explain. In general, the K means K median solution might look like this. It's much more explainable if you have like a threshold tree. So you have a geometric space and you say, well, all points out here, this line is dividing the points into two parts, and then this line dividing the points into two parts, and these are my three clusters. And the reason why Moskowitz and others who defined this version of explainability, they said, look, if you wanted to explain to somebody why a point was labeled green, you would have to say, well, some linear inequality was satisfied. For instance, if you wanted to classify a point as, a paper as likely accept, likely reject, or whatever, you'd say, some linear combination was being satisfied, some weirdo linear combination, whereas out here you could say, well, the paper was rejected because your technique's score was less than -1, novelty, whatever. Something like this. So much easier to explain. People don't completely quite as much, or maybe they do still, but that's not good.
So just the immediate question is, okay, this is like a one-dimensional thing. You could think of maybe a two-dimensional hierarchy. And
definitely. So, one thing is that still there are a lot more open problems in this area than there are answers. So we'll come back to this at the last slide.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. It's like, these are, yeah, exactly. These are dictator cuts in the jargon of the area. What about Gupta? Yeah. Okay. So really, this is what explainable clustering is for us. Is that a threshold tree is a binary tree where each non-leaf node is an axis-aligned threshold. Okay. And an explainable K clustering is one which is formed by a threshold tree with Ks. Okay. In the geometry, people call these guillotine subdivisions. Exactly. If you've seen this before, it's this. Good. And now this defines a notion of, once I have the clusters, for each cluster, I can choose a center. And then I can say, what's the cost of this? And then comes the question, the price of explainability. And the price of explainability asks how much more expensive is an explainable clustering compared to a non-explainable. And then you ask the algorithm question. We are all algorithms people out there. How fast, how quickly can you find an explainable cluster? And then you could, again, are you comparing to the best clustering or the best explainable? And the answer is yes. And both answers, both questions are perfectly reasonable, and we will ask both. Kuba was asking this question in the morning, so Very natural question. And so these are the questions that we are. Good. This was introduced by Moskovich, Das Gupta. I don't know how to pronounce it. Russian and Frost. ICML. And once this paper came out, they gave a very nice algorithm. I'll show you the algorithm. And then after this thing came out, there were a bunch of works on this, including by people in the audience. And I'll mention this. Okay. So what am I going to talk about? There's only so much time, but I'll generally talk about the result that they used in their first paper. Then I'll talk about the random threshold algorithm, which is the sort of second algorithm in this. And then I'll talk about what we know about essentially this. And for most of the talk, I'm going to focus on k-means in L1. Oh, sorry, k-median. Okay. So what's the setting? So the setting is you're given a bunch of points in three-dimensional space. The distance is the L1. Okay. So it's just Manhattan traffic distance. Okay. And so the cost of this clustering out here is what? Everybody knows what.
Your focus on L1 is because L1 is the easiest.
It's the easiest. It's the sort of cleanest, and it sort of aligns naturally with these hyperplanes, with the axis aligned hyperplanes.
What happened with the middle points?
Which one? This one?
Yeah.
That's somehow the. Good. Thank you. Good. Everybody happy? Good. Okay. And so the general approach, and this was the original paper of Moskovich and others. They proposed this. They said take any reference cluster. Start off with a k-median cluster. I'm going to convert this into an explainable cluster of not too much happiness. That was their goal. And so you're given a clustering, the red, blue, and green things with their centers respectively. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to chop it up into pieces. Sorry, that went a little fast. Yeah. So I'm going to chop it up into pieces. And then this is going to give me math. And this is slightly different than the original clustering, and we'll have a difference in cost, which we'll have to borrow.
So the top red point to the left of the cut is now gone to a different color?
Yeah, I've gone to this cluster. Okay. So this clustering is different from the original color cluster. Different cost. Good? Good.
So the original cost was this, center-based, some
Yes. Yes.
In the new clustering, how do you count?
Good. So in the new clustering, so here is one thing that will come up again and again. If I give you a reference cluster, what I'm going to do is that, I'm looking at the worst case possible situation. Right? So one thing that could be the case is that for that original data set, there could be 1 billion points sitting at each of these centers. So in this case, the new clustering I found should have two properties. This cluster should have a center out. Because if you put a center of this cluster anywhere other than here, there's 1 billion points sitting at that center. So what essentially I'm doing is I'm taking this cluster and I'm finding a new explainable cluster which has exactly the same centers.
Okay. But then how you measure the cost? Like you take the same centers
Uh-huh.
and you measure some distance to
that center.
Okay. But now like the red point will be this.
The red point is now going to this blue
But you don't recalculate like one center for each.
And the reason why I'm not doing this is because there might be 1 billion points sitting out here. So I might,
But in any case, this gives you an upper bound.
This
right?
gives you an upper
Because-
bound. I could
because
do
if
better.
you modify the center, you're only doing better.
Absolutely. Other questions? We good? We good. Okay. So what am I going to do? What's their algorithm? So their algorithm says, Moskovich and others, they said, while you haven't, broken the clusters into, while you haven't broken the points into 3 clusters, find a min cut, a cut that separates the fewest number of points from their prescribed centers. So for instance, you found this cut, it separated one point from its prescribed center. Okay. I'm going to pay for it. Right? This point, I've made a mistake, I'll pay for this mistake right away. And I'll, use the fact that I chose the min cut to charge this. Okay. And then I'm going to distribute. Okay. And let me tell you why this algorithm is a EPFL. That's it. So I'm going to tell you the idea behind the analysis. So look at the bounding box containing, can you guys see? It's this bounding box which is defined by which contains all the centers. It's the smallest bounding box. Okay. And now say the sum of the box widths along the coordinates is L. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a random threshold cut in this box. Say this. Now the thing is, what's the probability that a point is separated from its? Well, the probability is exactly, or is at most, the distance of that point to itself, divided by it, because that's how I chose it. I chose the cut. Okay. It's at most because there might be points which will never be cut. Okay. So if you sum over all these points, linearity of expectation says the expected number of separated points is off over them. Because the sum of these distances is exactly off. So this says that the expected number of separated points times L, the bounding box side, is at most off. Okay. I chose the min cut. So the number of points separated is at most the expectation. Whenever I separated a point from its closest line, how far will this point have to go? At most the bounding box. How much did I pay for this cut? At most by this. Now recurs. There's no rocket science. The ideas will just come out very nicely in this analysis.
This is not the original analysis in the paper.
Not quite the original. I mean, it's the same idea, but I like probabilities more than just.
You recurse on both parts, right?
I recurse on both. Absolutely. So in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of break into two parts. There's some K1 centers here, K2 centers there. I'm going to use the fact that firstly, first cut I took got me at most of. And secondly, that the opt left plus the opt right is now stops. Right? So,
But L wasn't that one dimension that was being cut, it was the sum of the box lengths.
it was the sum of the box. Absolutely. We okay? Good. Okay. So this is like K cuts to be made, K minus 1 cuts to be made technically, but who's coming? Okay. So the price of explainability is at most the height of the tree is at most. If the tree happens to be balanced, then it's much better. They also had a result for the price of explainability of K means. I'm not going to talk about K means. I don't think I have enough time to talk about K means. They also showed an example where the price of explainability is at least log. And I hope to at least give you a sense of why log K is the right answer later. Okay. So after this result came out, immediately, very quickly, there were a whole bunch of papers who saw how to improve this thing. And in particular, 3 papers had almost the same kind of results, qualitatively, quantitatively a little different. And these results were all essentially like log K polynomials. So let me tell you their proof. Because they're in the audience, and Levin's in the audience, these guys will tell you, they were there. I'm just the audience. So what's the algorithm? Let me tell you. So the algorithm is pretty much the algorithm that I showed you, that I alluded to in the previous thing. While there is a leaf with more than one center, select uniformly aligned. Okay. And the sort of intuition might be there that, look, if I chose a random cut and if it was a balanced cut, then I should be winning. I should only have log n levels of the cut, log K levels. Not quite the real proof, because you could imagine situations where the balance is always 1 K. But this is the main. We'll see. Okay. What? You choose, again, you draw the bounding box. You choose a random cut. In each piece, now you draw the new bounding boxes. You choose a random cut, and you. Be good?
Very, very lucky random choices.
See, the thing is that, yeah, very lucky. I'm a lucky kind of. Okay. So I'm going fast, guys. Slow me down.
Now you're still thinking about L1 or you
L1, for the whole
L1.
talk, L1. We'll talk about K means only at the end, if it. L1. Okay.
No, L1 you mean like K median or you mean L1 normal distances?
L1 norm in distances, K mean. So L1, L1. Okay. So remember, our algorithm is kind of agnostic to the point of view. So, and it's also sort of, yeah. So it's enough to analyze the cost increase of a single point. And I can always imagine that the single point is a beyond. Just by translation. So here's the essential. Sorry. New slide added, so we'll flow it a little. Let me show you a polylog. I don't need any of the previous 2 comments. Suppose the maximum distance between the current set of centers. You have some set of centers. We want to break them up. Suppose the maximum distance between any 2 centers is at most B, which is at most L, right? L is the bounding box. So B is at most. Okay. Now, the probability that 2 centers are separated by a random cut is exactly their distance divided by. Okay. So if you took T random cuts, the probability that all centers which are far apart from each other will be separated after these T cuts is pretty high. So I want to say the probability that 2 centers which were far apart are not separated by any of these T cuts is very small. These calculations are not important. I want you to get them. Okay. So after T cuts, where T is something like L over D log K, all the centers which are approximately D apart from each other have been separated. All remaining centers are close to each other, D over 2 or less distance. Okay. This will progress. Now, during these T cuts, points are being separated from their closest. We have to pay for this. But the probability that a point is separated from its closest center in any one round is its distance to the closest center divided by. So how much are you paying? You're paying this times the number of cuts you took in expectation times the distance to the farthest center, which is like B. So you just multiply distance to the farthest center right now, which is D times the number of cuts times this probability, which is, just cleaning this thing out is exactly its distance in the objective function times log. So once you take these three cuts, you paid approximately log k times 1. But you reduced the maximum distance, the maximum pair of centers which are not separated yet by a factor. And now there will be log distance. So some of you have seen this before. This is kind of a generic framework. We do this all the time in metric problems. We scale on the distances. And at each distance, we pay approximately, let's say, log k. So overall, we pay log k times log of the number of distance scales. And the number of distance scales between friends is like, the number of distance scales is like log k. Catch me later on, I can tell you why log k. Right. So you get log k times log k, that's log square. So that's one result, and then you say, well, log square, am I actually using log each time? No, I should be using an idea often called Seymour's trick. And again, catch me later on if you want to hear about Seymour's trick that can reduce one of the logs to log logs. Yeah, morally, this is thing. I always think of this. So doing divide and conquer smart. But that's the high level idea. I'm going fast. But this is the experts in this room. So
far you have not used the geometry of the space at all because
so I'm using the geometry only in this L1.
yeah, this sizes like the total size of the bounding box, right? Which gets cancelled. L times 1 over.
And I'm using the fact that because I'm taking these axis aligned cuts and integrating over these axis aligned cuts exactly gives me the L1 response. Which is where L1 was really crucial. Okay. So, basically I've told you so far the history of the work before I came to this. Upper bound of this much, lower bound of log k. I haven't told you the lower bound, but I'll show you. Okay. So let me tell you what's happening. So how good is this algorithm? I'm going way slower than I thought I would, but hopefully you guys are understanding with me so far. Okay. So let me just tell you one. If I have 8 minutes, I'm not going to talk. Okay. So I came to this, to this problem. I was at the Science Institute. And I was thinking about this with my students, and Ola was thinking about this thing, so we got together. And I'm hoping that some of we can have similar collaborations while we are out here, like in San Diego. And so what we could do was we could show that the price of explainability of this very same algorithm is 1 plus the harmonic, the k minus first harmonic. And actually, if you're wondering why this is true and you don't want to listen to me for the rest of the thing, just think of the following instance. There is a single data point whose closest center is at distance 1 from it. And then there are k minus 1 other directions where the closest guy is at distance capital D from it, let's say. And just run your algorithm, just run this random threshold algorithm on this instance. And you will get 1 plus harmonic number of students.
Is this just an upper bound or is it also tight for this algorithm?
So for this example, this is the right answer. So this kind of inspired this conjecture. We were aiming for that thing, and we did manage to do it. I should say that Kostya and Liran had a very similar result around the same time, and Liran's going to talk on Wednesday. We were good. So this algorithm, it's somehow very tantalizing, and it finally got named. This proof is very nice. We have similar proof, but I really like this proof. The 1 plus hk minus 1 proof is not my own favorite. It requires some amount of blood, sweat, and tears. I'd like to remove some of the blurs. So a clean proof of this would be fine. And it turns out that the price of explainability is at least log k. And here we are being pedantic about the constants, like log k, more or less. That's the right answer. The upper bound is really log k plus a little over quantum. The lower bound is also pretty much like log k. And to answer the algorithmic question that we asked, suppose I told you, forget about the price of explainability. Find me a clustering, an explainable clustering that is comparable to the best explainable clustering. How well can you approximate that problem? And it turns out you can't approximate it much better. So the naive, not the naive, but now the simple-minded approach in some sense of finding an arbitrary reference clustering and then making it explainable is within constants in the distance. Okay. So in the 4 minutes I have, I'll just tell you about this. And the lower bound came 3 hitting sets. And it's actually, it's all inspired by this line of work, with this kind of understanding the previous work better. So let's clear our mind. We have only 4 minutes, but this will take only. I want to show you bad instances of explaining. Okay. So here is one. I'll take a cube in d dimensions. There are only 2 centers. There's the center at all zeros and the center at all ones. Okay. Next to the all zeros center, at all points which have a single 1 in them, there is 1 data point. So 1 data point along each dimension. And remember, there is the center at the other end, there is a center at this. There is also a billion data points at this center and a billion data points at this center. So you better separate these 2 things. Okay. What will you do? You'll cut along some coordinate. That's your only means. If you cut along some coordinate, that data point will get separated from the origin. But we'll have to go to the other end of the hypercube. How much will it pay? It used to pay 1. Okay, sorry. It used to pay 1. Every data point used to pay 1, so it was D. But now 1 data point will pay D minus 1, and D minus 1 of them will continue to pay 1. So it's 2 times D. 2D. So it's 1 from D to D. Can we make this? Yeah, that's what I mean. So let's start off with the hitting problem. So really what I wanted to do was, I wanted to give you a set of points which would force me to make cuts along various dimensions. I want to make few cuts because every cut causes 1 data point to go very far. So I need to choose a few dimensions to make cuts. This is what was inspiring, to us when we said, let's look at the hitting set problem. So the hitting set problem is the following. I have a set system with elements 1 through D. I have k sets, where each set has the same size. Okay. And what do I want? I want a collection of points that hits everything, and the minimum such collection. And we know that this problem is. Okay. The details don't matter. I'm not going to, there's some integrality gap thing. Oh, by the way, maybe I should tell you the integrality. Now, if you are allowed to pick elements fractionally, there are S elements in each set. So you pick each element to 1 over S. So every set will see 1 over S times S, 1 unit of stuff. Okay. So that's a fractional solution whose cost is D over S. But there exist instances where any hitting set, integer hitting set, has size D over S times long. Okay. This is just an existence. Integrality. And there's some hardness result as well. which is, it's difficult to distinguish between D over S and D over S. Here's the result. Now, I'm going to have one center at the origin and a bunch of K other centers. What are these K other centers? The ith center is the characteristic vector of set Si. Okay. You have K plus one center. The origin is the origin. And every other set is the characteristic vector of some set. Every other center is the characteristic vector of some set. Okay. Remember, you have to separate all these centers from the origin. That's like choosing, you have to find a set of elements to hit in one of these. How hard it is? No. That no. I'm not going to bore you with the details. The construction is exactly like the previous construction. I'm way out. So let me just stop here. And this gives you the hardness result as well. Basically, once you see this construction, there's no way you cannot, have trouble. You will have, too many negations. Just if you think about it for 5 minutes, you'll be able to come up with this construction. I've told you the important. Look at hitting set, and your centers are the characteristic vectors of those sets. Long story short, I have a lot of stuff I can tell you guys, but let me stop here. The price of explainability for K medians is now ln K. Actually, it's not, this is too good. I'm not cheating. It's really theta of ln K. This algorithm is exactly this one, but the price of explainability is correct to almost the K means we still don't know the answer. The best lower bound is omega K, best upper bound is K log. This is what we were able to show. Approximating is hard, and all kinds of questions. Get better algorithms for K means. We'll solve this thing. Give a cleaner analysis for our 1 plus HK minus 1 result. Get better understanding of non-axis aligned thresholds. Understand C Hunta terms, Yuval's question. And perhaps this is one notion of explainability that's been very nice. What about other notions? So with that, let me stop. Thank you.
Just to make sure I understand this, you need an initial clustering, then you do that.
So for our results, this is exactly what's happening. And the hardness is somehow saying, if you're looking at a worst case performance, then that's pretty much the question.
Is there a way to directly get to threshold cuts without looking at an initial clustering? Because that's too much.
I don't know. You could say, you spent a bunch of time coming up with that initial clustering. Right? In some sense, you will see it.
So what's known for ultimate distances? Like we should even
For Euclidean distances. So I think you can get, so if you're asking for, again, explainable cuts in the same way, I think log into the 3/2 is the right answer, or is the best known, right? And log into the 3/2. So that's the thing that's K median Euclidean.
The question in the chat question, are there any other notions of explainability?
Are there any other notions? So, I don't follow the ML conferences as well as I should, but there are many notions of explainability being proposed in other conferences which have not percolated with the theory conferences. So I think we should.
So this notion of explainability is you are given a hyperplane and asking whether a point is on either side of the hyperplane.
Right. And in fact, axis aligned hyperplane.
Axis aligned hyperplane.
So even for non-axis aligned, you could just say, this hyperplane.
Right. Just hyperplane. So for the K means case, It is also axis-aligned hyperplane?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so, but if you do just any hyperplane, the results will change.
The results will change and we don't.
Means it must be optimal, because you have spheres.
So it's not completely clear if these were, if you could, get a clustering by taking first slides and then slices after that, but sometimes your optimal thing could be weird or thing like that. Yeah.
So your results for the K median, the
Uh-huh.
one distance are so tight that you said that you could start from any constant factor approximation and then.
Uh-huh.
But to understand correctly, that for the K means objective, your results are less tight. So it's not clear if this is also giving less.
Good. And another thing that I should have mentioned, which the slide said, but I skipped over some of them. So for K means, the best hardness we currently know is only log K. It's coming from K means. It's coming from this hitting set construction that we see. So for all you know, approximating the best K means explainable clustering is only log K approximate. Can be approximated to within log K. We don't know. The best algorithm we can give is that one.
Okay. She has a question on chat. Do these results extend to the Euclidean metric without losing square root of dimension?
Right. So for the K medium case, the answer is yes. And you lose a square root of log K. So you have log to the 3. That's
was this problem also considered for objectives like case interval?
that definitely maybe
They get the order, so has some dependence on case. Basically matching alpha and omega as Lambert.
Oh, Mourinho.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lambert and Mourinho, one of the papers I referred to. I think they had some results. Also, you can ask questions like, what is the dependence on the dimension? If the dimension is, if it's 2 dimensions, we know a polylog, even for K means. This is a paper of Charikar and Hu. If you have 3 dimensions, we don't know a polylog. All kinds of questions are. I mean, chances are if you ask the question, but anyways, let me stop. We should give.